In August, John Crawford, brother walking around a Walmart on his cell phone, had an air gun. He's talking. Next thing you know, he's dead. After another caller in the store said a guy was waving a gun, loading the gun. Cops run in, they're armed, and they shoot to kill. He ends up dead, father of two. Yet the police interrogate his girlfriend for 3 hours using shocking tactics. This video came from the Guardian newspaper, and it shows Tasha Thomas being aggressively questioned, and she is reduced to tears by Detective Robert Curd. Watch this. All right, we got some issues there, folks. So they're fixing that because you need to hear. You need to hear his questions, and you need to hear her. So do we have the problem fixed, folks? No, not yet. Okay, so fine. We'll once they tell me that problem is fixed, and so I want you to hear that the family of John Crawford III, they've now filed a federal lawsuit against the police. You might remember that a special grand jury was impaneled. They declined to indict police officers Sean Williams and David Darkow for shooting and killing him, even though he was shot and killed from a distance. Their lives were not in danger, yet they were still not indicted. Here's the video.
You need to tell me the truth.
I am. I swear to God. I swear to God. I swear to God. Oh, my dead brother is great. I swear to you. I cooperated in everything because I don't know.
Michael Wright is the attorney for the Crawford family. He joins us right now from our Cincinnati. Also, we have our panel here. Monique Presley, principal of the Presley firm. Cleo Manago, behavioral health expert. And Lauren Victoria Burke, managing editor of Politics365.com. This is stunning. This is stunning when you look at this particular video, Michael. What do you make of it?
Well, you're correct. It is stunning. And it's very upsetting to the family. The detective knew before he started interrogating Miss Thomas that Mr. Crawford was carrying a BB gun that he picked up off the shelf in Walmart. So what this shows is that this detective was trying to either coerce or convince or compel Miss Thomas to make a statement that would help them justify the shooting and killing of John Crawford.
And on that particular point, there were 200 cameras in that store. And the videotape shows him picking the weapon up. He's walking around in the store. So they are trying to suggest that somehow he bought it and brought it into the store. And keep in mind, Ohio is also an open carry state. Yep.
Right, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, it seems like they're suggesting or trying to get Miss Thomas to suggest that they had a plan to come in and to rob Walmart, which would give them justification to shoot and kill John Crawford. What's interesting, though, is that Mr. Crawford did nothing wrong in this store. He was shopping. He picked up this BB gun off of the shelf, which Walmart associates, the employees, knew that Mr. Crawford had picked up this BB gun prior to police officers coming in and shooting and killing Mr. Crawford on site.
Look at our panel here. I mean, what do you make of this? I mean, these police actions. Lauren, you go first.
Well, every time we have one of these incidents, the police effectively act to somehow make an argument that the person who's dead, it was their fault. I mean, we see this sort of strategy in every case, but your point is obviously well taken with regard to open carry in Ohio. Even if he had had a gun, it would not have been illegal in Ohio because you have open carry. It's a strange thing. I mean, what can you say about it? It's almost as if all the dumb police are ending up in the state of Ohio. Realize that the Department of Justice is investigating the Cleveland Police Department. Realize that Tamir Rice was killed for having a toy gun that he didn't even have out when the cops pulled up, and he was shot by a cop who had been fired from another department. So there's a pattern here with regard to Ohio, it would seem to me. This is so strange, it's almost like beyond comment.
But it's not strange. I mean, I hope I don't come off too emotional, particularly on camera, but I'm very upset, frankly. And this is not strange, you guys. What's strange is smartphones and surveillance being attended to so we can see what occurs. But this is not new. There was a time before Trayvon and before all this stuff got media attention where when we saw black men dead, we just said, okay, they must have did something. You know, one of the assumptions is that they must have did something wrong. If a black man was handcuffed or with police, this is not new. So I don't know what to say beyond that. We need to keep understanding that this is not new. We just have social media now and these devices that are raising it to the surface.
And we actually get to see it.
Right, exactly.
Because before this stuff was covered up, Monique.
Right. We have shoot first, ask questions later across the board. They shoot first, they ask questions of witnesses later, they interrogate witnesses for hours and do the things that unfortunately are permissible to do. They can use tricks, they can use lies, they can use extended interrogation. They can't threat or coerce, but I've looked at the whole video. Unfortunately, the interrogation is clean. What it shows, though, is that police officers immediately switch into CYA mode when they know, uh-oh, something's happened. Now, the detective claims that he did not know at the time he was interrogating Ms. Thomas that the BB gun was actually from inside the store. Well, you know, whatever. The point being that he's going to have to, at some point now, answer not just to the Justice Department, but to the internal investigation that keeps these practices from continuing.
Michael?
Okay.
Yeah, this detective was the lead detective. So he interviewed Tasha an hour after John was shot and killed. He knew that this was a BB gun. If he didn't know, he's incompetent. How would the lead detective on an investigation not know after Mr. Crawford was killed, after they collected this BB gun, that it was not a real gun?
Another tragedy is that she didn't even know at the time that this was happening, he was already dead.
Right.
She found out later, so she's going through this torture.
Right.
And then she finds out that the man is dead. I mean, I just have a lot of empathy for what she's gone through.
Michael, we certainly appreciate you joining us, man, and we'll certainly stay on top of this case as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Coming up, folks, is Bill Cosby's family. They're fighting back, but also he has some comments about black media, what they should do. All right, folks, dropped endorsement deals and network partnerships soon seal Cosby's fate on the small screen. Netflix, of course, canceled his stand-up special, and also TV Land pulled reruns of The Cosby Show, and NBC chose not to move forward with a new sitcom. And now, of course, Bill Cosby has been accused by a number of women when it comes to the issue of drugging them and also sexually assaulting them. Now the Cosby family is fighting back. His daughter released a statement. Of course, Camille Cosby released her statement 2 days ago. This is what Evan Cosby said in defense of her father. He is the father you thought you knew. The Cosby Show was my today's TV reality show. Thank you. That's all I would like to say. Smiley face. That was from her Facebook page. Of course, a number of folks, model Janice Dickinson, of course, Beverly Johnson, all came out. Beverly Johnson said he drugged her, but she was able to escape. Janice Dickinson said that she was sexually assaulted along with a number of other women as well. I want to go to our panel. It's very clear Bill Cosby and his family, they're not choosing to be quiet. They're not choosing to sort of fade to the background. They're coming out swinging.
Well, they've got a strategic plan in place, and what you do is wait a certain period of time and say, okay, is this the universe of people who are going to step forward and say something, and what are they saying? And then the lawyers, Marty Short and others, look at it and say, this is what we would permit you to say, this isn't. I believe that in the interview when Bill Cosby said at the end, they don't want me talking to the media, that was true, and that they are controlling carefully what's being said. And the statements that are being said are ones that should be expected, right, and ones that are safe. And I think that you will see more aggressive things being said as they figure out the second universe. We've got a universe of criminal allegations, then we'll have civil suits. It'll be interesting to me how you get a civil suit to stand about things that happened 30 years ago, but they have to know first.
And of course, like I said, Camille Cosby came out, now Aaron Cosby.
Right.
And what's interesting is that they're like, look, this is not who we know. This is my husband. This is my father. And again, a lot of PR folks were like, look, just let it ride.
Yeah, that letting it ride might have been a better idea in this case, because they're linking the UVA case to this, and they're linking discrimination and the case at Morehouse of 4 falsely accused young men of rape. Well, let me just tell you something. There's 26 people out now accusing Bill Cosby of varying degrees of sexual assault all the way up to forcible rape. The idea that somehow nothing happened here after 26 people have now come out. It didn't take, I don't know about anybody else around here, I didn't need Beverly Johnson to say anything. When we were at woman number 10, that was sort of enough for me. This is the same Bill Cosby, by the way, who in 2004 was the one who said that blacks needed to stop blaming discrimination for their problems, if you remember. Sort of ironic now that his family is using race as a reason to sort of say that he might be a victim in this case, and it's outrageous.
He made a comment about black media choosing to uphold standards and be neutral on this. TMZ reported that somehow Bob Butler, president of the National Association of Black Journalists, blasted Cosby. Well, Bob, I talked to him a little bit earlier, he said, no, that's not what I said. Here's a little bit of what Bob had to say.
I pointed out to the reporter that, listen, you know, when people look at black reporters, they think they're black people first. And, you know, most journalists I know are journalists first. It's who just happen to be black. And there is a difference. I just think right now there's so much of a hysteria about what's happened with Bill Cosby. And to say that NWJ is blasting Bill Cosby for his comments, no. You know, I agree you got to be neutral. I also said that, you know, neutral does not mean telling just one side of the story, whether it's those making the allegations or Mr. Cosby's side. And I think it's important people understand that.
So it's interesting how mainstream media plays it. Bob's position, what Bill Cosby said was in terms, and again, I think a lot of people ran with a neutral piece. And what Bob said is, no, as journalists, we have a responsibility. As opposed to, okay, we're going to take this side or the other. It comes down to facts of a particular case. And so it's interesting how they tried to play it as, oh, black journalists blast Bill Cosby. And Bob's like, no, I didn't blast Bill Cosby. I'm stating what our job is as journalists.
And 26 people in any story, I don't care what we're talking about. If you had 26 people making an accusation, you're reporting that as 26 people saying
but
something
I will give you, I will give you this pushback. Mm-hmm. Daily Caller ran a particular story. So one of the women who accused Bill Cosby said, I was on the Tonight Show. He walked into my dressing room. He put his penis in my mouth. I couldn't resist. That's what she said. Well,
he wasn't there that night, right?
So the research was done. They pulled up the facts, records. He wasn't actually on the show that night when she said he was. And then when they called her, there were about 3 or 4 inconsistencies. Now, this is not a question of saying I don't believe you. I'm taking his side. But the point is, if you are going to listen to somebody's story, you do as a journalist look at the claims and say, do they hold up? Can you do a fact check? And in her case, they're actual records. So she said he was on the show, but you can actually go back and look at the records, or actually he didn't appear on the show. That is a fact that is worth, as a journalist, being able to say, okay, I need you to answer this.
And I take issue with us thinking that by the sheer volume of accusers, that something becomes more true.
Yes.
That is not the case.
Yes.
Each separate incident where a woman had something to say coming to accuse Bill Cosby is a separate incident. It has to be researched that way. It has to be looked at that way through legal eyes. You can't say there's 26 sexual assault accusations. There aren't. You can't say there's 26 rape allegations. There are not. You
Nobody's
can't
saying
that
Nobody's
each of those
saying
incidents,
that.
but when you say
Nobody's saying there's 26 rape allegations.
At the 10,
Nobody's saying there's 26 rape allegations.
People are
Nobody's saying that.
There's an issue. All I'm saying is that when we look at it, people come forward all the time. If we look at it historically,
Not
as I said yesterday,
you can't name a press story where 26 people have come out and made similar allegations such as this.
And you
there is
won't
no such
be
thing.
able to
the
name a press story like that.
The Scottsboro Boys, which was one of the most outrageous miscarriages, most racist miscarriages of justice in American history, there were 2 accusers in the Scottsboro Boys case. We have 26 people with varying degrees of sexual assault all the way up to forcible rape.
But what's being implied,
26
what's
people.
being implied, though, and I agree with what you're saying, is that they all were raped. because you've had to correct the Beverly Johnson implication, which she never said she was raped, but people are implying that 26 women did the same thing 26 times, and that's not true. This issue is very complex because I don't know what to believe because I wasn't there, but I agree with you, just because 26 people drop, but I'm also a person who's concerned about rape and that women do get raped, and that's a problem, but I'm also concerned about black men being set up to be destroyed who have tried to take powerful positions in this country. So I don't know which way to respond, but I want to say this though. I think that the Cosby family kind of messed up when they said this stuff about he's like the father on TV. That's a very contrived perspective. It's kind of manipulative, and I don't think that's really a good angle for them to take. And of course, we expect the Cosby family to support him.
Exactly.
There's no objectivity there, and I don't think it was a helpful.
Hold on 1 second. I gotta go to a break. We're gonna pick up on this when we come back. And folks, welcome back. We continue our conversation about Bill Cosby and his comments as relates to a role of media. And I gotta ask y'all, do you believe that when you look at the reporting of this, when you look at the networks, and CNN has covered this more than anybody else. I mean, they've had different people. I mean, they have. I mean, just more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the media has properly vetted the accusations, or have folks just simply said, you make the accusations, we're going to just tell your story, and then not come back and actually confirm as best as they can from comments allegations folks are making that are 35, 40 years old?
It's being done backward. I think that there's vetting going on because you hear kind of the recantations after the fact, but it's being reported first because of the person who's involved, because of the person who's accused. And where the sheer volume is concerned, just to add some perspective, being a class action defense attorney, you will have some people who will come forward and join the bandwagon. So if you know that the police department messed up in a certain park on a certain day, you'll have 30 people who'll come forward to cash in who weren't even there, who were at lunch across the street, who were looking from the window. So we can't think that just because people come forward and say 30 years ago he put something in my cup, I can't prove he put it in there. I felt a little woozy. I didn't save the cup. I didn't go to the hospital. So what do we have now?
So, of course, yesterday there was a woman who accused him of raping her when she was 15, some about 40 odd years ago. Yesterday, the L.A. District Attorney announced that they were not pursuing charges in that particular case. Cleo, then Lauren.
Not only have I not seen much vetting, and I agree with you that it's been backwards, there's been a narrative of every time there's a report, I saw two people on one show say, so he's done, isn't he? And there's been several shows saying, so he's done, isn't he? So there seems to be a desire for him to be done after they do these reports and these one-sided reports around he has done all these terrible things to women. And I haven't seen much vetting myself.
Lauren?
I think that we need to divorce the fact that we like this person from reality, from basic common sense reality. Okay, I don't like CNN, I don't like Don Lemon, I don't like the way they're doing this, but the fact is they are putting these people on. These people, in two cases, Andrea Comstock sued him. There was a court case and Cosby settled, and there were 7 Jane Does that showed up, one of which was Barbara Bowman. She didn't get anything out of this. She hasn't gotten any money out of this. Now, Andrea Comstock got a settlement, but you've got women involved that are showing up on CNN that have gotten absolutely nothing. Explain to me what their big benefit is. In any other press story, you get this many people saying generally the same sort of thing, you would report it generally this way. Am I enjoying it? No, I'm not enjoying it. I do find it interesting, though, by the way, that all of a sudden Bill Cosby, who was preaching personal responsibility to black folks around the country, all of a sudden is trying to turn this thing around into, well, wait a minute, the black press should treat me fairly. I mean, he's the big personal responsibility guy. He should look himself in the mirror right now. Because 26 people is unprecedented in any press story.
Of whether you get some money or not, one of the benefits of going on TV saying this was done to you by Bill Cosby is press.
Oh, so
and
what?
Some people really want press.
What did Beverly Johnson need more attention for? Why did Beverly Johnson need to go on The View?
You have to ask Beverly Johnson.
Beverly Johnson's
not. No, she's not.
Famous. Yes, she is.
She's not been on the radar.
Yes,
she's not been on the radar in a long time.
I
forgot she existed. She hasn't been on the radar in a very long time, and now she's there.
So she's sitting around at home going, you know what? I think I'll make up a story about Bill Cosby so I can be on The View.
Well, I'm not saying she's made it up. I'm just saying that one of the benefits of people saying that this happened to me by a famous person is they get 50 minutes of fame. I think people want to remember
their childhood. They want to remember Cliff Huxtable, and that's great.
Well, that's not where I'm coming from at all.
But let me tell you something. 26 people. If we were talking about anybody else, if we were talking about Kirk Douglas or Tom Selleck, we would have just believed this. But because it's Bill Cosby, he's branded to America's father, we're having trouble accepting
but let me
what
be
is prior
clear.
reality.
I'm not buying into any of that. I think Bill Cosby's a human being, and I've always looked at him as a human being. He's not my father, and he's not my father in my house.
What about the 26 human beings that have just said what
what
they've
I'm talking
said?
about, though, which I think is relevant, is that people do like press. People do. She mentioned Beverly mentioned how her career was in shambles when she met Bill, and that's why she was trying to talk to Bill, because the phone wasn't ringing. So people do want press, and people do say things so they can get press, because people
some of these people haven't been on anything,
and that's why they want press.
Some of these people haven't been on TV at all.
So the concern really is not whether we like him or not. The concern is when any person in the United States is accused of criminal wrongdoing, they get the same access to the law, they get the same benefit of the doubt, they get the same standard that we fight for when our younger brothers, African American males, are being accused of committing crimes in the streets. I defend them and want them to not be considered guilty until it's been proven in a court of law, so they're innocent and Bill Cosby is innocent. And if we can understand,
we don't wait for a court of law.
If we can understand that,
Wilson? Did we say with Darren Wilson, wait a minute, let's wait for this to play out in
and that's
court?
not correct. That's an excellent example.
Are you kidding me?
Because
Darren
that's
Wilson,
not an
we know that he shot somebody
seven
seven times who was not armed, and we made a decision about Darren Wilson. That has
we saw,
but I didn't make.
We saw the body,
but Cosby,
and we
got
saw people, witnesses,
and we're
right
like,
after the body was laying there. That's different. There's no body in Cosby's
The point
case.
is, though, you're making the argument that we should be waiting for the court of law.
No, I think that
why are we waiting for the court of law for Cosby?
Either we believe in the system of justice or we don't. Either we think it applies to people. That's the issue.
Well,
so if it
I
needs
don't
to be
necessarily
changed, then we
believe in
fight
it.
for the change.
I think with
but
the
we don't set up a particular person because we think that there's a class issue involved.
Nobody's setting Bill Cosby up.
We need to recognize
Bill
the optics of the
Cosby
situation.
is not the victim.
Right.
Newsflash: Bill Cosby is not the victim.
Everyone's a victim.
He is not the victim. He is not the victim in this situation. Don't give me everybody's been victim.
Well,
How is Bill Cosby been
Camille and his daughter. He's a victim from. This is a perspective issue.
Now, see, that's a victim, Camille. That I agree.
Well,
with you on.
she's saying that her husband is a victim. Matter of fact, her question was, "Who's the real victim?" And we know the implications were the real victim is my husband. That's what she meant by that.
Well,
victim is relative. And one of the things I think is real important to understand, Lauren, you're very passionate about this, and I understand that rape is a horrific thing, and I don't know who did it. I wasn't there, but we don't know what the truth is.
Okay.
We don't know what we don't know.
You can make that
we
argument
do not know.
For Darren Wilson. You can make that argument for anything, but we don't make that argument when it comes to certain cases.
You can't raise
we
that.
We do not make that argument with certain cases.
Body.
Oh, we don't know what the truth
I went to Ferguson and did my own research, and half of what I saw with my own eyes has not even made it to.
But how do you know what the truth is? How do you know what the truth is in that case? I mean, the idea that we somehow divorce, we don't listen to what 26 people are saying, and then all of a sudden we say, let's wait for it to get to court.
Videos of this event almost from beginning to end. That never made the press.
They don't have the shooting.
And there's also people in Ferguson who were killed.
We don't have the shooting.
Who were witnesses, who were part of the grand jury.
All of a sudden, with Bill Cosby, we want to wait for the courts.
What we prove, the three of us, is that there is no we. We don't think in a monolithic fashion. We don't have the same ideas. We don't come from it with the core same vantage point. So when I'm looking at the Darren Wilson case, I'm looking at it as an experienced police misconduct attorney. So I'm recognizing that there are more facts than the things that the people in the streets jump to conclusions about.
And if you had 26 people, if you had 26 people who came to your firm and said, you know what, wow, 26 people are saying the same general thing over the period of 30 years.
But what Roland also said, though, was that when you check some of these women's story, it's not adding up.
It doesn't pan out. So you have to do
the work. When you go home,
we got to stop saying 26, then we have to say 22 or 19 or 18.
Type into Google Cosby accusers into Google when you get home and read.
Here's the deal. Y'all can continue this conversation in the black room coming up.